not just in terms of the different, tiers of government, between the federal and state and perhaps local government, but even in terms of, the different ministries. Because if you're talking about going to schools, the starting school sports, we also need to collaborate with the Ministry of Education. I mean, it's a given. Now, in terms of, and you can't do this. You can't proceed without also collaborating with states. I mean, there is the National Council on Sports, which comprises, all the states, commissioners of sports and all of that. The plan is that before we begin to run, we're going to call a National Council on Sports and be able to provide briefing and direction and see how we can get states to key into what we plan to do. So that is a given. That is going to happen. I'm even hoping as well that at some point when it's possible and when I can, working with the DG of Governors Forum, I should be able to have some kind of window to also be able to have some engagement with our governors. So that is the second question about the technical crew of the senior national team. This same technical crew qualified us for AFCON. And even before our last match, we had qualified. Therefore, there is no immediate plan, about altering that crew. If you recall, soon after I assumed office as Sports Development Minister, one of the issues I responded to was the status of the national coach vis-a-vis his contract, which had expired. And we had some late night meetings and came to a common agreement and got him, engaged and extended it to immediately after the AFCON tournament. So it's the last question. Now, not all the sports may be universal everywhere. What I mean is that, I think that in terms of the technical details, whereas there are sports that you can get, the interest everywhere, there are also some sports that are more peculiar and more unique to some parts of the country that they can excel. I mean, the planning is going to be sensitive to this. But like I said, it's not just going to be football. You mentioned athletics. It's difficult. It's going to be difficult, for example, to run away from football, run away from athletics, run away from, let's say, even basketball, run away from. I've tried to, talk about the followership. I'll talk about, what we are. Okay, ahead of going for the All African Games, which comes up early also next year in Ghana, or going for the Olympics in Paris. Our past performances and our experience, would suggest there are some sports that you can already, imagine that we're going to be able to get medal in this, medal in that. So all of that is going to be our guiding principle. The issue about the public-private partnership, it's when I visited the stadium in Lagos, I had said that I met a concessioning arrangement that was in place. And I said, if what it would take to get back the glory of the National Stadium in Surulere, if what it would take is going to be that concession, I have no objection to it. I said, but if concessioning cannot provide the answer, I'm not too sure we're getting back to a period in which governments complete takeover and complete, control and of that stadium. I think we've gone beyond that. Therefore, without prejudice to what is now followed, whether concession or not, there must be. It's still going to be PPP. It may be a different variant, maybe whatever, but it's still going to be PPP, if I got you right. Now, the other initiatives about getting the private sector, both in Moshood Abiola Stadium and in the Surulere Stadium, some private individuals were encouraged to take up some facilities in a program that they call Adopt a Facility program. In Abuja Stadium, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, stepped in and provided some facilities, renovated, some facilities and all that. In Lagos, Kensington Adebutu, also stepped in and did some number of things. Not only are we going to sustain this, we're also going to expand it, even to adopt a sport, program. The last thing to say here is that, as part of what plan that we have, to do things a little bit differently. We just finished the National Youth Games in Asaba. And when I declared open those games, I said it will not just be a yearly ritual. You go and compete, and people win. States win. Some states are first, some states are last, and stop at that. The games must be a means to an end. And in this case, we have people who have won medals. We have people who have shown their competencies and have excelled in different sports. The plan going forward by the ministry is to be able to target and focus on these people and see what more we can do to support them to grow in those sports. I mean, call it ministers' team, so that we can monitor those that we can get some support in terms of partnerships and scholarships, both within the country and outside. We will try to. But the goal would be to see how we can grow these talents from the young ages that they are and get them transit to elite sports, where they get to a point that they can win laurels for our country. That is the only point at which, this will make sense. So again, I thank you.